I never believed I'd find myself in a situation like this. Honestly, I thought I knew my wife better than anyone else. We'd been together for years, through thick and thin, arguments, vacations, and plans for a future that seemed solid as steel. Our wedding was just days away, and I was finally starting to feel like everything was falling into place. Then I stumbled on those damn pictures on her phone. It was late at night, and I had gone into her closet to grab a sweater. As I reached inside, my hand brushed against her purse. It was unusual. I always kept my own stuff there, but lately she'd been more secretive about her phone, hiding it when I came close. Something made me glance inside her purse, and that's when I saw it. Her phone was lying face down, but I could see the faint outline of a message notification on the screen. I hesitated, then grabbed it. The screen lit up, revealing a string of messages. My heart sank. I knew what I was looking at even before I fully processed it. There were explicit pictures, photos of her naked, with someone I'd never suspected, Alex. Alex, our mutual friend, the guy I'd always trusted. The images weren't just random either, they were intimate, personal. The kind of thing you only share with someone you believe is worth trusting. I felt my stomach twist into a knot. My palms went slick, and for a second I couldn't breathe. I was staring at my wife's secret. Her just a fling was clearly more than that. And the worst part, she lied about everything, swore she'd never cheated, told me her past was clean. But those pictures told a different story, years of lies hidden in plain sight. I stared at the phone for what felt like forever, then gently put it back in her purse, my mind reeling. I couldn't even tell her I knew yet. I just stood there, my fists clenched tight, feeling the cold rush of betrayal. How many nights had I gone to bed wondering why she was distant? Why she'd suddenly start acting weird? It all made sense now. The subtle shifts, the evasiveness when I asked about her past, the way she'd keep her phone closed. That was the first red flag I missed. Looking back, there were plenty, her phone always in her hand, secretive. Texts, the way she'd suddenly become so guarded. But I dismissed it as paranoia or maybe just her personality. Now I knew better. She'd been hiding her secret for years, and I'd been blind to it. The worst part, I don't think she even knew I found out, or maybe she did. The way she acted the next day, nervously brushing her hair, avoiding my eyes, it was obvious she'd sensed something was off. I kept my composure, but inside I was boiling. I wanted to confront her right then, tear her apart. But I knew that wouldn't be enough. Not yet. That night I sat alone in my apartment, feeling the cold sweat on my forehead and the weight of the truth pressing down. I kept thinking, how long has this been going on? How many lies had I swallowed? And the worst, how do I move forward from this? I couldn't do it. I couldn't ignore what I'd seen. I had to plan my next move. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about a secret affair. It was about betrayal on a level I never imagined. The fact that she'd kept this hidden for so long, even from herself, made me see everything differently. I started to think about what revenge could look like, how I could make sure she felt the consequences of her actions without crossing lines I'd regret. But first, I needed a plan. And I needed to be smart about it, because this was going to change everything. I didn't want just a breakup. I wanted her to feel the weight of her dishonesty, to understand what she lost. The morning came too quickly, and with it, a boiling need for answers. I decided I'd confront her that night, but I'd do it on my terms. I'd let her believe she still had some control, then show her I'd uncovered her secret and that I wasn't leaving quietly. I was furious, and that fury was going to fuel everything I did next. If she thought she could get away with hiding a betrayal like this, she was dead wrong. I was done playing nice. I was about to turn the tables, and she'd regret ever crossing me. That night I sat in my apartment, the silence deafening. My mind kept replaying what I'd seen, the images, the messages, her lies. I could feel my jaw tighten, my fists clenching uncontrollably. I wanted to scream, to break something, but instead I took slow, deep breaths. I needed to keep my head clear. I wasn't going to rush into anything. That wasn't how I operated. I had to be strategic, patient. If I stormed into her with accusations, she'd just deny everything, spin some story, or worse, destroy evidence. No, I needed a plan, something airtight. I started researching online, ways to confirm things, ways to catch her in the act if she tried to hide anything further. I remembered she'd been acting strange lately, so I decided I'd test her, push her just enough to see her reaction. That meant waiting for the right moment, not rushing. I wanted her to slip up, to reveal herself without me saying a word. But even as I planned, I knew I couldn't keep quiet forever. I had to confront her eventually. The question was asterisk how. I didn't want to do it impulsively. I wanted her cornered, unprepared. That way I'd get the truth, or at least a confession. So the next day I started laying my trap. I knew she'd be checking her phone, probably paranoid now. I secretly set up a way to monitor her messages. Nothing overt, just enough to see if she slipped up again. I kept my eye on her, watching her every move, feeling the familiar heat of betrayal burning inside me. That evening she returned home from work looking tense. Her face was drawn, her eyes darted around nervously. I said nothing at first, just sat on the couch, pretending to be relaxed. She tried to act normal, but I could see the sweat on her palms. Finally, I broke the silence. "Hey, I need to talk to you about something. It's important." My voice was steady, but inside I was seething. She hesitated, her lips trembling. "What is it?" I looked her straight in the eyes, and I saw the moment her defenses cracked. "I found your phone yesterday, and I saw the pictures." Her face went pale. She opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off. "Don't lie to me. I saw the messages, the photos. The truth is right there." Her eyes widened, and she looked like she might cry. But I wasn't going to let her manipulate me now. I wanted her to understand that. Knew everything. You swore you'd never lie again, that it was just a fling, but I know better. You've been hiding this for years. She broke down then, tears streaming down her face. "It was a mistake. I swear it meant nothing. I was drunk, stupid. He's just a friend." I shook my head. "A friend, really? Then why the pictures? Why keep it secret? You lied about everything, about your past, about us." I realize now that I was just a fool to trust you. That was the night I decided enough was enough. I knew I had to get out of this marriage, not just for my sanity, but to make sure she knew she couldn't get away with cheating and lying. And here, where I started formulating my revenge. I needed her to feel the loss, the betrayal I was feeling. She was so used to hiding her secrets, to controlling her story, so I'd take that away from her. I'd make her see what it felt like to be vulnerable, exposed, and utterly powerless. I didn't want to hurt her physically, but I wanted her to realize the damage she'd caused. That meant carefully planning how to turn her own lies against her. I knew from past experiences that revenge isn't about just hurting someone. It's about showing them they've lost control. That's what I was going to do. I sat there, staring at her trembling figure, thinking about my next move. She'd betrayed me, lied to my face, and now I had the power. I could make her regret ever stepping out of line. The pieces were falling into place. I just had to execute it perfectly. I felt my blood boil, but I kept my voice calm. "You've done enough damage. Now it's my turn to decide what comes next." And that's when I realized this wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my dignity. I wasn't going to let her walk all over me anymore. I'd make her see the consequences of her actions without even raising my voice again. The game was on, and I was ready to play it. The next few days felt like walking on thin ice. I kept my cool, but inside I was brewing with plans I couldn't shake off. Every time I saw her, her nervous glances, her trembling fingers, it all fueled my determination. I needed to make her feel what she'd taken from me: loss, betrayal, and shame. I started by gathering evidence beyond her phone. I planted a small voice recorder in her purse when she wasn't looking, just to catch any further lies or admissions. I wanted her to slip up again, to give me something I could hold over her head. Meanwhile, I kept watch on her social media, her messages, anything that might reveal more about her intentions or her relationship with Alex. I wasn't just planning to confront her. I wanted to own the moment, to make her realize I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. One evening, she came home early from work. I could see the tension in her shoulders as she entered. I greeted her with a calm tone, but my mind was racing. I knew I had to do something that would hit her hard, but I didn't want to ruin everything with one explosive confrontation. I wanted her to feel the weight of it, to crumble under her own lies. She hesitated before sitting down. "Look, I know you found out. I want to explain," she started, voice trembling. I looked at her, my jaw clenched. You're going to explain after everything, or are you just going to keep lying? Her eyes darted away. It was just a mistake, I swear. I never meant for it to get this far. I was drunk and I thought it was nothing. I took a step closer, feeling my blood pressure rise. Nothing? You call sending naked pictures to Alex nothing? That's pretty damn serious. Do you even realize what you've done? How much you've hurt me? She looked like she was about to cry, but I didn't care. I wanted her to see that this wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about her lies, her manipulation. The trust was gone, and I was about to make sure she knew it. Here, what's going to happen, I said, voice low but firm. You're going to pack your bags. Tomorrow morning you're leaving. You're not staying here to spin more stories or make excuses. I'm done pretending I don't see the truth. Her eyes widened. Please, don't do this. Give me a chance to explain. I cut her off. No, you had your chance. You threw it away. I don't want to hear your lies anymore. I watched her face crumble. She looked defeated, lost. That moment felt satisfying but also hollow, because I knew that even as I kicked her out, I was just getting started. My revenge was shaping up to be something that would leave her thinking about it for a long time. I went to the closet and started packing her things. She stood there, silent, tears welling up again. I handed her a piece of paper, a simple note with the keys to her apartment and a checklist of what to collect. I didn't want her to think I was being cruel, but I wanted her to understand her actions had consequences. She stared at the paper, then looked at me with a mixture of desperation and shame. You'll regret this, she whispered, voice trembling. I looked her straight in the eyes. Maybe. Or maybe you'll finally realize how much damage you caused. Either way, this is the end of it. As she gathered her things, I felt a strange sense of clarity. I had taken back control, and for the first time in a long while I felt the heavy weight of justice. Not revenge for revenge's sake, but justice for myself. I deserved better than lies, betrayal, and secrets. Once she was gone, I sat alone, staring at the empty space where she'd been. The silence was deafening, but it was also freeing. I knew I'd feel empty for a while, but I also knew I'd get through it. That was the moment I realized I'd never let anyone lie to me like that again. I took a deep breath and decided what came next. I'd move on, rebuild, and learn from this. Because if there's one thing I knew for sure, it was that trust, once broken, is hard to repair. But I'd be damned if I let her undo me. No more secrets, no more lies. I'd reclaim my peace, one step at a time. The house was eerily quiet after she left. I stood in the living room, feeling a strange mix of relief and emptiness. The betrayal had cut deep, but at least now I knew the truth. The weight of having uncovered her secret was heavy, but it also cleared my mind. I needed to act quickly, to solidify my revenge plan and make sure she felt the full impact of her lies. That evening I sat at my desk, going over every detail. I had the evidence, the emotional high ground, and a clear objective, to make her see what she'd lost without crossing any lines I'd regret. I wasn't interested in creating chaos, but I wanted the truth to be undeniable. I wanted her to understand that lying and cheating had consequences, and I was going to deliver them. First, I secured the evidence. I made copies of the photos and messages, stored them on a USB drive, and uploaded everything to a secure cloud account. I wanted backups just in case. I also set up a fake social media account under a different name to monitor her activity. She might have thought she'd cut me out, but I had plans to keep watching her, to catch her in any further deceptions. Next, I formulated my plan. I wasn't going to confront her again. That would be too risky. She might deny everything or spin some sob story. Instead, I decided to let her believe she'd gotten away with it, while I quietly prepared my move. I wanted her to feel the loss, the betrayal, without her even realizing I was one step ahead. The next morning, I made a simple but calculated move. I contacted her employer and left a message, anonymous but credible, about her inappropriate behavior. Nothing too obvious, just enough to make her employer question her professionalism. I knew her job was important to her, and I wanted to hit her where it hurt. Meanwhile, I arranged to have her access to certain online accounts blocked temporarily. I knew she'd try to log in, so I set up a custom alert on her email. The moment she tried to access her email or social media, I'd know. It was a small step, but it had a psychological effect, making her aware that I was controlling the situation. That evening, I sat on my porch, feeling the cool breeze against my skin. My mind was alert, every nerve on edge. I visualized her reaction, how she'd panic when she realized she was under surveillance. I wanted her to feel exposed, vulnerable. I wanted her to understand that her secrets were no longer safe, that I was in control now. About an hour later, she called me. Her voice was shaky, hesitant. I don't know what you're doing, but I want to talk, she said. I kept my tone steady. There's nothing to talk about. You made your choices. I just want you to understand that I know everything now, and I'm done pretending I don't. She tried to deny it, but I cut her off. Don't, I've seen enough. The pictures, the messages, you lied for years, and I want you to understand you're not going to get away with it anymore. She was silent for a moment, then whispered, please, can't we just— No, not anymore. You lost your chance. I hung up before she could say another word. That night I kept my phone close. I knew she'd try to contact me again, maybe beg or lie her way out of it, but I was ready. I'd already set up everything and I was about to escalate. What I'd learned from all this was simple. Trust is fragile and betrayal demands a response. I had no intention of letting her walk away without feeling the repercussions. She'd played her game, and now it was my turn to play mine. I was about to show her that actions had consequences, big ones, and she'd regret ever crossing me. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and anticipation. The next phase was crucial. I needed her to understand her lies couldn't be hidden forever, and when she finally realized that, it would be too late for her to undo what she'd done. That's when the real revenge would begin. The following day, I woke up feeling a strange calm, mixed with the bubbling anticipation of what was to come. I'd spent the last few days setting everything in motion, and now it was time to see how she'd react when she realized I was truly in control. I knew she'd try to reach out again, to spin some story or maybe plead for forgiveness. But I wasn't interested in forgiveness, not yet. This was about making her feel the full weight of her betrayal. I kept my phone silent, watching the notifications roll in. Sure enough, by mid-morning, I saw her try to access her email, an alert I'd set up in advance. Immediately, I received a message on my fake account confirming her attempt. That was the first sign she was starting to panic. I didn't respond. Instead, I just kept monitoring her activity. Every move she made was adding fuel to my plan. Later that afternoon, I decided to escalate. I made a few calls, not directly to her because I knew she might be listening, but to her workplace and her close friends, just enough to stir suspicion. I left messages hinting at her unprofessional behavior and her dishonesty. Nothing blatant, just enough to make her question whether her reputation was safe. I wanted her to feel that her carefully constructed facade was crumbling. That evening she showed up at my door. Her eyes were red, her face tense. She looked like a person who had run out of options. Her voice trembled when she spoke. Please, we can fix this, just talk to me. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I crossed my arms, feeling the coldness settle in my chest. Fix what? Your lies, your betrayal. You thought you could keep this secret forever, didn't you? But I've seen everything. The pictures, the messages. You're not just a liar, you're a thief of trust, and I don't want you near me anymore. She begged, tears spilling down her cheeks. It was a mistake. I swear I was stupid. I didn't think it would. I cut her off sharply. You didn't think? That's your excuse. For years you lied to my face, hid your past, and now you want me to believe it was a mistake. Sorry, that doesn't work on me anymore. You had your chance and you blew it. She looked desperate, almost defeated. That's when I knew I had to go further. I had one last move that would crush her, the ultimate sign that she'd lost control. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a sealed envelope. I handed it to her. Here, what I want you to do, take this, go to your job and tell them everything, your affair, your lies, be honest, or I'll do it for you. Her hands trembled as she took the envelope. You wouldn't. I would, I said coldly. You've already lost everything that mattered to you. Your reputation, your trust, your dignity. Just remember, you brought this all on yourself. She looked at me, eyes wide with shock, then slowly nodded. Fine, I'll do it. I watched her walk away, feeling a strange sense of satisfaction mixed with a heavy emptiness. I'd made sure she'd feel the consequences, that she'd understand what it meant to betray someone who loved her. I knew it wouldn't undo everything, but it was enough to make her realize she'd crossed a line she couldn't come back from. As she disappeared from view, I closed the door behind her, locked it, and finally let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. The game was over, and I'd won. The betrayal had finally caught up with her, and I'd made sure she'd never forget it. That night I sat alone, staring into the darkness. I thought about what I'd done, about how I'd taken back control, and how I'd rebuild my life from here. There was a strange peace in knowing I stood up for myself, that I'd made her feel what it was like to lose everything. The aftermath was inevitable. The call from her employer, her friends' reactions, the shame that would follow, everything was unfolding exactly as I'd planned. And in the end, I realized something vital. Sometimes, the only way to heal is to make the person who hurt you understand exactly what they lost. Now, I just had to wait and see how she would handle the fallout. One thing was clear: she'd never forget the day she lost her lies, her secrets, and the trust she had so carelessly shattered. And I'd never forget the day I took my power back. The days that followed were a blur of chaos and quiet. I kept my distance, watching her from afar as her life unraveled. I knew she'd told her employer everything: her affair, her lies, her betrayal. The fallout was immediate. She was suspended from her job, her friends slowly started to pull away, and her social circle became suspicious. The shame was written all over her face whenever I saw her in passing, and honestly, I felt a strange sense of peace every time she looked my way with those haunted eyes. I didn't need to say much anymore. My actions spoke loud enough. I handed her the final piece of the puzzle when I returned her keys and the last of her belongings in a simple cardboard box. No words exchanged, just the sound of the door closing behind her and the distant echo of her footsteps fading down the hall. That was the moment I knew I'd finally cut the cord. I remember standing there, feeling the weight of everything I'd been through. The betrayal, the hurt, the sleepless nights. I'd finally taken back my power. It was like emerging from a storm into clear skies. I realized I'd spent so much time trusting someone who was never truly honest with me. But now I was free. Free from her lies, her secrets, and her betrayal. Free to rebuild, to start fresh without the ghost of her deception shadowing every step. I sat down on the porch, watching the sunset streak the sky in fiery reds and oranges. It was strange how life could suddenly shift in an instant. I finally grasped that my peace had been stolen, but I'd fought to get it back. I had played my part and I'd done what I needed to do. No more hiding, no more pretending that everything was okay. She had made her choice and I had responded in kind. Looking back, I can honestly say I don't regret the steps I took. Yes, it was painful, more than I could have imagined, but it was necessary. She needed to know the consequences of her actions. She needed to feel the loss of trust, the sting of betrayal, and the shame of exposure. I wanted her to carry that burden with her for a long, long time. Now I'm healing. I'm learning to trust myself again, to believe in the fact that I deserve honesty and loyalty. The experience has hardened me, but also made me clearer about what I want from life and from the people I let close. I don't regret the revenge I executed, not because I enjoy hurting, but because I believe sometimes people need to feel the repercussions of their choices. So here's my advice to anyone who finds themselves in a similar situation. Trust your instincts. Don't be afraid to look deeper, even if it's uncomfortable. People show you who they really are in the end. When you discover betrayal, don't rush to forgive or forget. Take control. Set your boundaries, enforce them, and never let anyone make you feel small for uncovering the truth. And most importantly, remember, your value isn't determined by someone else's lies or betrayal. Reclaim your strength, even if it means playing dirty for a moment. Because in the end, the only person who truly loses when you stay silent is yourself. Stand up, walk away, and don't look back. The truth hurts, but it also sets you free.